We're meeting with Mark Reynolds today. We're in Cumberland, Indiana, and Mark is president of the City Council in the town of Cumberland, Indiana. So first of all, tell us about what you've been enabled to do as president of the City Council here in Cumberland.
Well, as a landscape architect, I have a specific set of training, and right now we're very fortunate to have a diverse council with very different backgrounds and professions and home lives that add to our ability to design better for a community. It is my feeling that we need more people in elected office and on boards and commissions who have design training such as architecture, planning, engineering, or landscape architecture. As landscape architects, we tend to be able to be visionaries, and we are able to see things where nothing exists or how things potentially might be, not just in one way, but in multiple ways. And those skills are very important in government if you want to have visionary communities that plan for the future and think about what might be and what can be rather than just saying what is. But the other thing with landscape architects is we tend to be very pedestrian oriented in terms of the way we design. We want people to be able to walk, and we want things to be of the scale that pedestrians and bicyclists and things that are non-motorized will be able to use to get through the community and interact with each other and go about your daily life. If we think about the highway project, the engineers are really fantastic at getting vehicles to move through at specific speeds and design for the safety of vehicles themselves. But if we start to integrate that system with something that is more for pedestrians or bicyclists, then we need more perspectives, we need different disciplines involved in the highway projects to accommodate, say, a Main Street type development as opposed to a state highway project. So this, for me, the projects in Cumberland were a unique opportunity to practice what I knew and the training I had and apply it through determining policy and actually setting goals and vision for the community that way.
Can you give us some history of the town of Cumberland and how it got its name?
Sure, and that's an easy one. The town of Cumberland was named after the city of Cumberland in western Maryland, where the National Road began. Our town was platted in 1831, and it was developed here at this location because of its proximity to the center of the state, but also because of its location along what was the historic National Road. The word Cumberland, is significant because all of the 6 states along the route from Maryland to Illinois have a town named Cumberland, a county, and usually a river, and often some road names that are named Cumberland in recognition of the start of the National Road in Maryland.
So tell us about Cumberland today, for the size and how you manage your government system here.
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked, because it is a small town in terms of size and population, but we are a part of a much bigger metropolitan area, so we deal with big city type issues rather than just a small town government. We are in 2 counties. We're in both Hancock County and Marion County on the east side of Indianapolis. And our town is almost evenly split in terms of the population, about 3,000 or so, give or take, on each side of the county line. And so we work with the mayor and the city of Indianapolis, and we work with the county commissioners in Hancock County in terms of government services. We were listed on what was then Historic Landmarks Top 10 Endangered Sites for the state as an example of a small town disappearing under urban sprawl and highway projects. Now, that was about 12 years ago. We were on that list, and that got a lot of people's attention to say, let's do something different here, and how can we we counteract that. So because of the publicity that some could perceive as negative, it gave us the opportunity to do something positive. And so the highway project really was the big focus at that time, and the much more complicated focus, which is East Washington Street in Marion County. And we wanted you to cross German Church Road and know that you're in Cumberland, that this is a different town, and it's not more of the same urban sprawl. So the streetscape project has different street lights, sidewalks, street trees, street signs, and a large sign to let you know you're in Cumberland. So it's different now, and it celebrates our identity.
So you've given us some background on the National Road and where it begins on the East Coast, but you also have a historic rail line running parallel to the National Road. Tell us about that railroad. It's a long road also, isn't it?
Yes, the two parallel paths. And in Indiana, particularly, we have US 40, which crosses the state. And adjacent to it, within a few miles, there's the Pennsylvania Railroad on the east side of Indianapolis and the Vandalia Railroad on the west side. We have an organization called the National Road Heritage Trail Association that is working to develop the trail across the state from Richmond to Terre Haute. And there are pieces being built in every single one of the 7 counties across the state right now. Cumberland's portion is a 3-mile section of the Pennsy, and we call that the Cumberland Pennsy to identify the town's portion and celebrate the town and the unique identity, as opposed to the Indy Pennsy to the west or the Greenfield Pennsy to the east. But they're all part of the same system, and they recognize their proximity to the National Road, because the National Road is all about little historic towns, historic sites, historic tourism. And the plan is to develop the trail parallel to that to enhance those aspects of the road, but also to integrate 2 different systems and magnify the benefits and the opportunities of one. The idea of historic districts along the National Road and separate identity for cities and towns across the state along the Pennsy is something that is important for economic development, because if you have something that's unique, you become known for that, and then you become a destination for that. We had to have some separate things that were special about our portion of the street and about our portion of the trail. One of those things was the solar system model, which here we have our brochure that shows the scale model of the solar system, which is across our Pennsy Trail in Marion County and Hancock County. It's 2.8 miles from the sun to Neptune. So it's quite a trip to get down to one end of the solar system and back to the sun. But it has become a destination in terms of people come to the area now for something that they can't get elsewhere. We have something that is able to meet state testing guidelines for I-STEP tests, and it's able to meet state guidelines for field trips. So we have classes and students coming out here for homework and for projects that gives them a reason to use the trail, and it makes it work on another level. Not every reader or every rider is going to read the panels and stop and see that, but even so, as a bicyclist, you get a sense about the distance and the spacing of the planets without having to even stop or change your behavior.
So tell us about the Cumberland Pennsy Trail.
Cumberland Pennsy Trail, for us, we consider the starting point German Church Road in Marion County. It runs for 1 mile to the county line, which is Carroll Road. We have a very neat bridge crossing there, which is very high up to meet the future road plans for that road. And then we run up approximately another 2 miles into Hancock County, and that's almost to 600 West. We We also have a volunteer group now, an ad hoc group of citizens and government officials from Cumberland and from the city of Greenfield working to connect the two municipalities. We've got about 4.5 miles gap right now in Hancock County, and we know the more miles you get, the greater dynamic you have, the more people use the trail, and it just really brings it to life and takes it to a new level when you have those additional miles.
So let's talk about landscape design and plant selection in both the streetscape that has occurred along the National Road and along the trail.
Well, we worked with consultants to develop the landscape planting plan for the streetscape and for the Pennsy Trail. And at the time, that was CBA and Associates who we were specifically working to design that. And we selected them because they matched our goals to use native plant material. And I will tell you, after the drought of 2012, that has proved to be one of the best decisions we ever made, because it was native plant material that stood up best to the severe weather conditions and the drought issues that we had and the heat this summer. So we had native plant material along the streetscape and the trails, and especially in terms of trees. But the medians became a lot more tricky. There were many other interests, if you will, that had to be addressed in selecting of the plant material for that.
So is everything native in your landscape?
I would say 98%.
So I noticed also in the Myers parking lot that there's a bus stop there. Is that important to you for trail access also? Well,
it is. We look at a buzzword that planners like to use is multimodal, which is integrating different transit types such as vehicle, bus, pedestrian, bicycle. And the more integration of those, the more successful metropolitan area's transit system is going to be. So we've got Indigo and the City of Indianapolis bus system stopping at Meyer, and we designed a trailhead along the Pennsy to directly link to that, to have bicycle racks, benches, bus shelter integrated with the trail system. And a lot of people will use that now. They'll either ride their bike to the Indigo, park and leave it there, or take the bike on if there's an available rack. It really does maximize the system, and I can say since we have this Indigo bus stop there, we can actually get on the bus in Cumberland and take transit to the airport. And so you don't have to pay parking at the airport. I'm sorry for the Indianapolis Authority. I know the airport authority wants to make money from parking, but hey, you know, we have to save where we can. And you have a much more relaxed trip to the airport if you allow enough time. There is a direct route from downtown. You can get off a bus there and take directly to the airport, or you can just stay on the same bus and not have to change from Cumberland. And I've used that at least 2 or 3 times now, and it is pretty neat.
Tell me about the wetland that you guys constructed.
Wetland is Buck Creek in Hancock County, and we built a sewer interceptor along that corridor about 12 years ago or so. And because it's a sensitive area, we did a huge investment in environmental remediation, planting of native materials through that corridor to protect and enhance it, what was there. After we did that, that wetland intersects both Washington Street and the Pennsy Trail. And particularly along the Pennsy Trail, it's a scenic amenity. It's called Buck Creek for a reason. When we were developing the logo for it, we wanted to see why was it really named Buck. We've had guys around here named Buck, and we have deer that are buck. Historically, it was named that for the buck, the huge amount of buck found along its banks. And that is still true today, even with our development. That I have heard from many people, including people on the council here, they've gone out in the evening and they've seen deer. So it's really a fantastic place to view wildlife not only the animals, the birds are fantastic, but the plant material and the way they change with the seasons. And beyond that, we thought, well, this is an opportunity to talk about wetlands and why they're important to life on this planet. So we put up a panel that interprets wetlands and tells the benefits to the community, the benefits to humans and the community around it, and the natural systems that are there.
So Mark, I know that because of federal and state monies that there are regulations that that go along with this pot of money. So describe what that experience was.
Well, that was an educational experience for me because I had never been through it before. But what I've come to look at the type of regulation tied to federal money as an opportunity to find things that are going to benefit the overall project. I like to work with that system and find the gem, if you will, through it. And particularly with the streetscape and trail projects, there was a need for an environmental review done to determine sensitive natural areas, but also potentially significant historic areas or cultural areas through the town. And through that process, we were able to recognize those instead. So I view the regulation as something that saved the town, that saved the community, because without them, there could have been 7 lanes through the area. One of the significant things we did with the streetscape bridge at Buck Creek, where the trail will cross under, was design it so you could actually see the waterway, recognize that it exists. Typically and previously we had Jersey barriers, which are concrete walls, so as you drive over it, you're not aware of the natural environment around you. That kind of thing makes the experience more pleasant. It makes the entrance to the community more attractive, and it greatly enhances the experience for pedestrians. So you know there's a creek there, you know there's a trail connection going underneath. It starts to become an incentive to get off of the highway and explore the community. One of the things I remember from a public hearing for a state highway project 10, 11 years ago was that somebody from the public stood up and said, you know, the state highway department, they are talented engineers. They know how to build roads. They are really experts. We need to just let them do that. They are the best at it. And I thought about that statement because I would have to agree. The engineers, they know how to build roads. They know how to deal with speed. They know how to accommodate vehicles. However, that's not all that a community is about. The same engineers aren't necessarily trained in economic development, historic preservation, how pedestrians move through a space, sensitive environmental areas, and specifically how highway design is going to attract or enhance the economy of the area. So for those reasons, if you want something more than just a chute for a car, you need to have other stakeholders involved in the road or trail project or whatever it is that involves federal funds. Because there are so many aspects to development that draw on different areas of expertise, and the more you combine those in the planning stages of the project, the better and the more successful project you're going to have, and the more benefit the project's going to give to the community. So that I think that's a significant learning piece for me with this whole process.
I think it's what is cool is that you still have the town of Cumberland existing with its own identity rather than, as you called it, a chute, that you just, okay, you're in Indianapolis and now you're in Hancock County and there's no people or character there. So I think you've done a really great job of putting your place on the map with Cumberland as its own identity and a town friendly for walkers, pedestrians, bicyclists, and all forms of transportation. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and that we've done a lot, and we hope to do a lot more.